Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. On today's tutorial, I will demonstrate how to draft, cut and sew a cowl neckline blouse with a shirt collar. Hi, my name is Ayo and welcome to 011 Clothing Tutorials. On this channel, I upload DIYs, pattern drafting and sewing tutorials. If you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do so and do not forget to turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. So now, let's get right into the tutorial. Thank you! I'll be working with the following items: tape measure, pins, calculator. Ideally, a pencil should be used to draft a pattern, but for tutorial purpose I'll be using these marker pens, a pair of fabric scissors, a pair of paper scissors, a matching thread, 2 yards of crepe fabric, pattern paper, rulers and curves. I'll be working with the following measurements: bust circumference 39 inches, waist circumference 35 inches, hip circumference 43 inches, shoulder to shoulder measurement 16 inches, shoulder to waistline 18 inches, blouse length 25 inches. I have here this pattern paper and I've already drawn a margin of 2 inches at the top and on the left hand side of the pattern paper. I will now go ahead and draw a rectangular box that will contain both the front and the back patterns, as I will be drafting these two patterns within this rectangular box. To know the width of the rectangular box, I will find the largest circumference between my bust, my waist and my hips measurement. And the largest circumference is my hip circumference measurement, which is 43 inches. I will now calculate my hip circumference divided by 2 plus 2 inches for ease, and this is 43 divided by 2 plus 2, and this is equal to 23.5 inches. So I will go ahead to measure and mark 23.5 inches like this. And I will square a vertical line downwards. The length of the rectangular box is the blouse length, which is 25 inches. So I'll go ahead to measure and mark 25 inches like this. And I will square a horizontal line across. Next, I will divide the rectangular box into 2 equal halves vertically, like this. This side will be the center back, while this other side will be the center front. Next, I will measure and mark 1 inch for the back shoulder line from this upper starting line like this, and I will square a horizontal line across. Next, I will measure and mark 1.5 inches for the front shoulder line like this, and I will square a horizontal line across. I will now calculate the armhole depth. I will use the formula bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5, and this is 39 divided by 6 plus 1.5, and this is equal to 8 inches. So from the back shoulder line, I will measure and mark 8 inches downwards like this. The total length of the armhole from the upper line is 9 inches. I will now measure and mark 9 inches at the center back and also at the center front from the upper starting line. I will now square a horizontal line across to the center back and to the center front. This is the armhole line. My shoulder to waistline is 18 inches. So from the upper starting line, I will measure and mark 18 inches downwards like this. I will now square a horizontal line across to the center front and also to the center back. This is the waistline. Next, I will measure and mark 3 inches by 1 inch for the back neckline, and using a French curve, I will draw the back neckline curve like this. For the front neckline, I will measure and mark 3 inches by 3 inches for the front neckline, and using a French curve, I'll go ahead and draw the front neckline curve like this. Next, I will divide my shoulder to shoulder measurement by 2, and this is 16 divided by 2, and this is equal to 8 inches. So on the back shoulder line, I will measure and mark 8 inches. Also on the front shoulder line, I will measure and mark 8 inches starting from the center front. Also on the armhole line, I will measure and mark 8 inches starting from the center front and also the center back. I will now connect these points together like this to give me the front and the back shoulder lines. I will also connect these points together with broken lines like this. Next, I will calculate my bust circumference plus 1 inch for ease divided by 4, and this is 39 plus 1 divided by 4, and this is equal to 10 inches. So on the armhole line, I will go ahead to measure and mark 10 inches like this, starting from the center back and also the center front. I will also calculate the waist circumference plus 1 inch for ease divided by 4, and this is 35 plus 1 divided by 4, and this is equal to 9 inches. So on the waistline, starting from the center back and the center front, I will measure and mark 9 inches like this. Next, I will calculate my hip circumference plus 1 inch for ease divided by 4, and this is 43 plus 1 divided by 4, and this is equal to 11 inches. So at the hem of the pattern, which is also my hip line, I will measure and mark 11 inches starting from the center back and the center front. I will now connect these points together to give me the front and the back side seams. Next, I will locate the middle point on this broken line for the back pattern, and from this middle point I will go in by half an inch. I will now connect these 2 points together like this. Then I will connect these 2 lower points together like this with a French curve. On the front pattern, I will go up by 3 inches from the armhole line, and from this 3-inch point, I will go in by 3/4 of an inch. I will now connect these 2 points together like this. I will also connect these 2 lower points together with a French curve like this. At the side seam, at the hem, I will go up by 1 inch. At the center back and the center front, I will come down by 1 inch. I will now connect these points together like this with a curve. I want this blouse to have a zip at the center back. This is optional and you can skip this step. First, I will tighten the waistline by half an inch at the center back. I will locate the middle point between the neckline and the armhole line. I will now connect these 2 points together like this with a ruler. The center back tightening will end 2 inches above the hip line. I will now connect these 2 points together like this. Then I will add 1 inch zip allowance to the center back of the back pattern in the center back tightening line. Next, I will measure and mark 3.5 inches at the center front, below the front neck depth, and this is how deep I want the front neckline to be. On the front neckline curve at the center front, I will measure and mark 1 inch. I will now connect these 2 points together like this. This is the opening at the center front of the front neckline. Because this blouse is a sleeveless blouse, I will reduce the back and the front shoulder lines by 1 inch. I will now redraw the back and the front armhole curves. This will no longer be part of the pattern. I will now go ahead and cut out the front and the back patterns like this. Next, I will go ahead to measure the front and the back neckline curves, excluding the zip allowance at the center back of the back pattern. And this gave me a value of 7 inches and a quarter. This is the front pattern. I will now divide the shoulder line into 3 equal sections like this. At this point where the front neckline ends, I will go ahead to measure and mark 3 inches like this. I will now connect these points together like this using my ruler. I will number the sections like this. Then I will slash it open. On this new pattern paper, I have drawn 2 lines at right angles. I left enough space at the upper part of the pattern, about 5 inches. I will now spread out the slash pieces like this, making sure that this top edge aligns with this horizontal line and this tip touches the vertical line. Pin it in place like this. As for this lower point at the center front, I will make sure that it touches the vertical line also. And I will pin it in place. I will now pin in place the other parts of the front bodice. This second piece that extends beyond the vertical line will be ignored, as it will have no effect whatsoever on the final pattern. I will redraw the shoulder line. I will redraw the shoulder line like this. I have enough space at this top edge to create the neckline facing. So I will fold the paper along this horizontal line like this. I will now cut it out. I will ignore this piece that extends beyond the vertical line. I'm going to cut the front following the vertical line on the paper. I will cut out the front neckline like this. For the neckline facing, I will make it 3 inches long at the center front and 2 inches long at this side. I will now connect these 2 points together like this. And I will trim off the excess paper. I will now remove the old pattern from the new one like this. This is the center front, and this front pattern will be cut on bias. This is the back pattern, which can be cut on bias or on the straight grain. Next, I will draft the shirt collar pattern. This shirt collar will not have a button stand at the center front. I will now draw a margin of 2 inches at the left hand side of the pattern paper and also at the lower part of the pattern paper. The length of the front and the back necklines that I measured earlier is 7.25. So I will measure and mark 7.25 like this. Next, I will measure and mark 4 inches for the width of the collar. And I will square a horizontal line across like this. I will also measure and mark 7.25 on this new line. I will now connect these 2 points together vertically like this. I will measure and mark 1.5 inches for the width of the collar stand. And I will square a horizontal line across like this. Next, I will measure and mark 1/3 of the length of the collar at the top and also at the lower part of the pattern that I'm drawing. I will now connect these 2 points together vertically like this. From this point, I'll go up by 1/2 inch. I will now connect it to this point like this using a ruler. From this upper outer corner, I will go out by 1/2 inch. From this point, I will go up by 1/2 inch also. I will now connect these 2 points together like this with my ruler. Using a French curve, I will now connect this point to the top edge of the collar like this. This side will be the center and it will be cut on fold. I will now cut out the shirt collar pattern. This is the collar fall and this is the collar stand. So these are all the pattern pieces needed to make the sleeveless cowl top. I will now go ahead and cut them out on my fabric. This is the crepe fabric that I will use to make the top. I will now go ahead and fold the fabric on bias like this. Right sides are together. I will now pin the front pattern piece to the fabric like this along the folded edge of the fabric since the front pattern will be cut on fold. I will now add 1/2 inch seam allowance all around the pattern except for the seam and the hem where I will add 1 inch seam allowance. I will now go ahead and cut it out like this. I have also gone ahead to cut out the back pattern on the straight grain. You can also cut it on bias. I used 1/2 inch seam allowance all through except for the hem and the side seam where I used 1 inch seam allowance, and there is no seam allowance at the center back because there is already 1 inch zip allowance at the center back. These are the collar pieces. I used 1/2 inch seam allowance all around the collar pieces and the center back was cut on fold. These are the 2 back pieces. I will now go ahead and fix a zip to the center back of the back pieces. You can skip step if you don't want a zip at the center back of your blouse. Then the zip allowance should not be included at the center back. Rather, the center back piece should be cut on fold on the fabric. So now I'll fix the zip to the center back of the blouse, as you can see, and it is an invisible zip. This is the front piece. The first thing I will do is to hem the neckline facing. So now the hemming has been done, as you can see. I will now place the front piece on top of the back piece like this, right side to right side. I will align the front and the back shoulders very well. Then I will flip over the front neckline facing like this. I will now pin the shoulders in place, including the facing. After pinning, I will take it to my sewing machine and I will stitch it in place using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see. I will use this bias tape to finish the armhole of the bodice. So now that has been done, as you can see, these are the two collar pieces, and I have interfaced the wrong sides of all the collar pieces, both the collar fold and the collar stand. With the right sides of the collar fold together, I will go and sew in this direction using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see, and I've turned the collar to the right side and I've given it a thorough press using an iron. This is the collar stand. I cut 2 pieces on fold and I've interfaced the wrong sides of the 2 pieces. I will notch the center of the collar at the top edge like this. I will also notch the center of the collar fold like this. I will now pick up one collar stand piece and I will place it on top of the collar fold like this, right side together. I will pin it in place, making sure that the centers match up. Then I will sew on my sewing machine after pinning using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I will also fold in place the 1/2 inch seam allowance at this lower end of the second collar stand piece. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see, and this is the second collar stand, and I've pressed in place the 1/2 inch seam allowance at the lower end. I will now notch the center of the collar like this. I will also notch the center of the collar stand at the lower end. I will now pin the collar to the front and the back necklines like this, right side to right side, making sure that the centers match up. After pinning, I will take it to my sewing machine and I will stitch it in place using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see. I will now pin the top edge of the remaining collar stand in place like this. I will make sure that the center points match up. I will now take it to my sewing machine after pinning and I will stitch using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see. I will now go ahead and sew the 2 sides together like this using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. But I will make sure that this part is folded upwards while sewing. I will pin it in place and I will stitch using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I will also make sure that I push the collar fold out of the way before sewing. So now the stitching has been done, as you can see. I will now stitch the lower part of the collar in place, but first I will baste it in place so as to achieve a neat neckline finish. After basting, I will now take it to my sewing machine and I will stitch it in place using 1/8 of an inch sewing allowance. That is 1/8 of an inch away from the lower edge of the collar. So now the stitching has been done and I've given the collar a thorough press with my iron. Next, I will flip over the top like this, such the right sides are together. I will now go ahead and sew the side seams together using 1-inch sewing allowance. I will also go ahead and hem the lower part of the top. So now that has been done, I've joined the two side seams together, as you can see, and I've also hemmed the lower part of the top. So that's it guys, we're done, and this is the final look of the cowl front blouse with a shirt collar. If you find this video helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, drop a comment down below, share this video with your friends who are interested in sewing, and do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. See you in my next tutorial. Bye, and thank you so much for watching.